Okay, let's unpack this. We're about to dive into a market that might sound um, incredibly specific at first glance. Horizontal circular sawing machines.
Right. Seems niche.
But honestly, these aren't just tools. They are absolutely foundational workhorses in global manufacturing.
Couldn't agree more.
I mean, think about any time metal needs to be cut with precision, high-tech parts for, say, the latest electric vehicle, critical components for aircraft.
Or even just the structural beams holding up new buildings.
Exactly. These machines are essential for making that happen accurately, efficiently.
And what's really fascinating here, I think, is how demand for something so specialized, it acts as a kind of direct indicator
An indicator of what?
of industrial health and investment worldwide. It reflects activity in factories, major construction projects, advances in manufacturing techniques, too.
That makes sense. And to get a clear picture of this crucial market, we're looking at a growth outlook report.
Yeah, it's pretty comprehensive, packed with data covering the global and regional landscape from 2021.
With projections all the way out to 2033.
So our mission today isn't just, reading through the numbers. It's to understand the story they tell.
All right.
We want to pinpoint where the growth is happening geographically, analyze the forces driving that growth in those specific places.
And ultimately figure out what this tells you, the listener, about the current state and future trajectory of global industry.
Exactly.
So think of it as getting a sharp, insightful look into a vital piece of the machinery that builds the modern world around us. Ready to make the cut?
Let's jump in.
Okay. Where do we start? Global picture.
Yeah, let's connect this to the bigger picture first. The report clearly shows the overall global market for these machines is on a, consistent and healthy upward trajectory.
It really is. Looking at the totals, the global value was what, $1,676.2 million back in 2021? It's forecast to reach nearly $2 billion, specifically $1,976.1 million just next year, 2025.
Right on the corner.
And projected to hit a significant $746.3 million by 2033.
And that represents a compound annual growth rate, or CAGR, of 4.2% over the period.
Okay, 4.2%, which sounds pretty solid.
It is. This isn't just basic expansion. That healthy CGR indicates persistent, increasing worldwide demand. It's rooted in the need for the kind of high-precision cutting these machines deliver.
Across key sectors.
Exactly, like metal fabrication, automotive production, and construction.
Okay, so that's the global view. But here's where it gets really interesting, I think, when you start looking at the regional breakdown.
Definitely.
Asia-Pacific stands out immediately. Pretty dramatically, actually.
Absolutely. Asia-Pacific isn't just the largest market, it's also the fastest growing by a significant margin.
What are the numbers telling us there?
The report shows it expanding from $720.8 million in 2021 to a projected massive $1,243.9 million by 2033.
Wow.
That kind of jump signals huge underlying industrial momentum.
And within Asia-Pacific, I'm guessing China is.
Predictably, yeah. China is the dominant force driving a huge chunk of that growth.
Makes sense.
Right. China's market alone is projected to reach almost $500 million, $491.1 million specifically by 2033.
And the drivers. Just sheer scale.
Pretty much. It's directly tied to its enormous manufacturing ecosystem and ongoing large-scale infrastructure development. I mean, think of the sheer volume of precise cuts needed for everything from consumer electronics casings to high-speed rail lines.
Right. But it's not just China fueling that region, is it? India, for example, shows a remarkable 5.1% CAGR.
Yeah, higher than the global average.
That's significant.
Yes, and that's a really interesting story. India's market is projected to nearly double, from $121.8 million in 2021 to $231.9 million by 2033.
Okay.
And this impressive growth is significantly fueled by government initiatives like the Make in India campaigns.
Okay, so direct policy impact.
Exactly. These policies encourage domestic manufacturing across sectors, which directly translates into increased demand for fundamental equipment like precision saws, to build that capacity from the ground up.
So you see deliberate policy driving demand for these specific tools. Interesting. And we see solid, steady growth from other established industrial players in the region too, right?
Yeah.
Japan, South Korea, Australia.
Yes, absolutely. They're all contributing, often driven by their existing strengths in areas like automotive components, shipbuilding, general fabrication.
All relying heavily on precise cutting.
Exactly. And it's also worth noting the surge in Southeast Asia countries like Thailand, Indonesia, Vietnam.
Okay.
Their collective market segment shows significant expansion. They're benefiting significantly from rising foreign direct direct investment, FDI, in manufacturing across the region.
So as companies relocate or expand manufacturing there.
They need these foundational machines. Simple as that.
Got it. Okay, shifting.
This audio was created with Podcastle.ai.
Need these foundational machines. Simple as that.
Got it. Okay, shifting gears then. Let's look at North America. This region also demonstrates strong growth.
Definitely. Climbing from $358.7 million in 2021 to a solid $570.6 million projected by 2033.
And the U.S. is the main player.
The United States is the primary contributor here, yeah. Projected to reach over $375 million by 2033.
What are the drivers there?
Well, robust domestic manufacturing, for one. Persistent demand from aerospace and defense sectors, they require extremely high-tolerance metal components.
Makes sense.
And also ongoing infrastructure upgrades. You know, new bridges, buildings, transit systems, they all need precisely cut materials.
And Canada and Mexico, they also contribute significantly to this regional story.
They do. Canada's growth is fueled by investments in machine tools and its strong automotive manufacturing sector.
Okay.
And Mexico's market is supported by its developing industrial corridor, you know, those manufacturing zones along the border and key trade routes.
Right.
And its crucial role in manufacturing components for export, particularly to the U.S. market. This creates consistent demand for reliable, precise cutting equipment.
Okay. Now let's cross the Atlantic to Europe.
Europe.
The European market doesn't seem to have that explosive percentage growth we saw in parts of Asia.
No, it's more steady, reflecting established industrial activity.
Right. The regional market expands from $306.8 million in 2021 to $486 million by 2033.
And Germany, naturally, as a major engineering powerhouse, remains a strong and reliable market, contributes a large share of that regional total.
And France?
France, too, supported by its high-value precision tools and aeronautical industries, also shows steady growth.
Then there's Italy, with its vast network of small and medium-sized enterprises, SMEs.
Especially in metal manufacturing, shows consistent demand as these businesses invest in upgrading their capabilities.
Right.
It's interesting, though, to look at some, maybe, outliers here. While it's a smaller market overall, the UK shows a notable 4.7% CAGR.
Higher than the global average again.
Exactly. This could indicate significant investment in modernization or perhaps specific industry growth areas. And Luxembourg, starting from a very small base, only $9.2 million in 2021.
Tiny.
But projected to nearly double to $15 million by 2033. That's a fascinating little example of rapid growth in a niche market segment.
That is interesting. And the rest of Europe category, that includes places like Poland, Czech Republic, the Netherlands.
Yeah, that group shows significant collective expansion.
Any particular reason cited?
The report links this to the strong adoption of automation and smart machining technologies in those areas, suggests investment in more advanced sawing solutions.
Okay, so investing in higher tech.
Seems like it.
Right. Moving south now to South America.
South America. The market there shows steady, consistent growth. Brazil leads the way.
Brazil's market projected to reach almost $90 million by 2033, driven by its automotive parts and broader metal cutting industries.
Correct. And we also see growth in other South American countries. Argentina, for instance, supported by its agriculture equipment manufacturing sector that needs robust metal fabrication.
Makes sense.
And countries like Colombia, Peru, Chile. The report notes their momentum in increasing localized production and import substitution, meaning they're building domestic capacity to produce goods they previously imported, which, again, requires fundamental industrial tools like these saws.
Got it. Building it themselves. Okay, finally, let's cover the Middle East and Africa.
Right. Growth here is characterized as moderate but stable compared to other regions.
Turkey seems like a key player.
It is. Bolstered by its industrial zones and steel production sectors, contributes significantly to the regional total. Egypt also shows steady expansion in its industrial base.
And the rest of the Middle East, which includes places like the UAE, Saudi Arabia.
That area shows growth, but at a slower 2.2% CAGR.
Why slower?
Well, the report indicates this market segment can be more impacted by fluctuations in oil prices and large investment cycles.
Ah, okay.
Which might lead to less consistent demand for industrial equipment compared to regions with, say, broader manufacturing bases.
Understood. So pulling all of this regional data together, what does this deep dive into horizontal circular sawing machines really tell us?
Well, I think it paints a picture of a truly global industrial market that is growing everywhere, yes, but importantly, is being driven by very different engines depending on the region you look at.
Exactly. You see the scale-driven expansion in Asia-Pacific, particularly China and India, where the sheer volume of new manufacturing and infrastructure just requires a massive influx of these machines.
Hmm.
Then you contrast that with developed economies in North America and Europe. There, growth is steadier, reflecting investment in modernization, automation, and high-value sectors, demanding the most precise cutting capabilities.
And this widespread adoption, fueled by these diverse regional dynamics from, building new capacity to upgrading existing facilities, that's the key takeaway, I think.
Yeah.
It shows that while manufacturing strategies vary globally, the fundamental need for precise material processing remains a constant. And that drives demand for this essential equipment.
So to wrap up this look into the horizontal circular sawing machines market, it gives us a tangible sense of global manufacturing activity. It really highlights where foundational industrial capacity is being built or significantly upgraded.
And how different economic strategies translate into demand for specific tools.
Right.
And looking ahead, it makes you wonder, doesn't it? As manufacturing evolves, maybe with new materials like advanced composites or shifts further towards additive manufacturing.
What unexpected applications or innovations might emerge?
Exactly. Things that also require new forms of precision cutting, potentially driving the next wave of demand.
And perhaps even shifting these regional dynamics in ways not captured by the current forecasts.
Could be. What seemingly unrelated industries might suddenly become major customers for advanced cutting technologies down the line?
Something definitely worth considering. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.
Okay, let's get into it. We're doing a deep dive today on something, well, maybe a bit under the radar, but really fundamental. Horizontal circular sawing machines.
Right. Not your average workshop tool.
Definitely not.
Yeah.
We're talking the big industrial players. And our mission, using this market report you've brought, is to pull out the key insights. What's really driving things? What are the hurdles?
And what's changing, yeah. Because these machines, they're behind so much.
That's what struck me. They're crucial for car parts.
This audio was created with Podcastle.ai.
They're behind so much.
That's what struck me. They're crucial for car parts, for, the steel in huge buildings. It's quite surprising how central they are.
Absolutely. They're sort of the unsung heroes of high-volume metal cutting, especially where precision matters. The report really lays out the pressures and, well, the opportunities.
So let's start with the drivers. Looking at the report, what's the main engine pushing demand for these machines right now?
It really comes down to precision and productivity. Think about metal fabrication, the automotive sector.
Right, mass production.
Exactly. Millions of identical parts for cars, trucks, heavy equipment. You need steel bars, profiles, cut perfectly, consistently, and fast, like really fast. The report flags the need for throughput as key.
And how does automation fit into that picture? Is it a big factor?
Oh, hugely. Industry 4.0 is definitely not just talk here. We're seeing integrated CNC systems that do more than just guide the blade.
So it's smarter than just basic programming.
Yeah, much smarter. They plug the saw into the whole factory workflow. It replaces manual steps, cuts down on, human error. That boosts throughput massively. Essential for modern manufacturing in places like, say, Germany, the US, Japan.
Predictable cuts every time.
At scale, exactly. That's the goal.
Is there anything bigger, sort of macro level, driving this too, beyond the factory itself?
Well, yes. Global infrastructure spending is a big one.
Construction boom.
Precisely. Think about all the urban growth, especially in Asia-Pacific, the Middle East, new bridges, railways, skyscrapers. They all need enormous amounts of structural steel cut accurately.
And these saws provide that capability.
They're essential for it. You need that high-volume, precise cutting to keep those massive projects moving. You just can't build at that speed otherwise.
Okay, so demand drivers are clear. But the report also points out some real challenges, right? What are the main obstacles?
Well, the first one is pretty straightforward. Cost. The upfront capital investment for these advanced CNC machines is significant.
A barrier for smaller companies?
Definitely. For SMEs, especially maybe in emerging economies, that initial price tag can be daunting. The ROI isn't always clear-cut up front, and, budgets are often tight.
It's not just buying the machine, I guess.
No, it's the whole setup, integration.
Yeah.
And then there's the ongoing challenge. Maintenance and operators.
The human element.
Right. These aren't simple machines. They need careful calibration, blade alignment, tuning for different metals.
Mm-hmm.
You need skilled people.
And those skilled people aren't always easy to find.
Exactly. The report mentions that in some areas, maybe parts of Latin America or Africa, a lack of highly skilled staff can really hold things back. It leads to inefficiency, maybe quality problems, or just costly downtime.
And what about the actual cutting parts, the blades themselves?
Good point. Raw material price volatility is another headache, especially for things like high-spec blades, powerful motors. Fluctuating costs there make the machines more expensive to buy and also to run. It's a global issue.
So it's a dynamic field, lots of demand, but also significant cost and skill pressures. Let's pivot to the future then. What emerging trends are shaping things?
Okay, a major one is IoT integration. Think predictive maintenance.
So sensors everywhere.
Pretty much. Real-time sensors monitoring everything, vibration, blade condition, motor temperature, even how much power it's using. All that data feeds into diagnostics.
So you can predict a failure before it happens.
That's the idea. You schedule maintenance proactively. Avoid those sudden, unscheduled stops. It massively cuts downtime and reduces the total cost of ownership. Very attractive for big manufacturers in the US, South Korea, China, places like that.
Staying ahead of the curve, literally.
Right. And linked to that efficiency drive is energy saving.
Sustainability.
Yes. Newer models are using things like servo-driven motors instead of older hydraulics. They're much more precise in their power use, only drawing what's needed. Big savings, especially for machines running constantly, 24/7. That aligns well with green targets, particularly in Europe and North America.
Makes sense. And are the machines themselves becoming more flexible?
They have to be. Customization and modular design are becoming really important. Customers need saws set up for specific materials, specific shapes, different production volumes.
Tailor-made solutions?
Kind of. And offering modular designs where you can upgrade or reconfigure the machine later. That adds huge long-term value. Adaptability is key in competitive markets, like, say, India's steel sector or manufacturing in Canada.
So summing it up, it's a sector being pushed hard by industry's need for speed and accuracy, but also facing cost and skill hurdles. And technology is the key response, making machines smarter, greener, more adaptable.
Exactly. It's this fascinating mix, isn't it? You've got cutting-edge automation, global economics, sustainability pressures, and still this fundamental need for skilled human oversight.
And all that is quietly shaping the physical world around us.
Right. Reshaping the buildings we work in, the cars we drive, one incredibly precise cut at a time. It makes you think about how these industrial processes underpin so much of modern life.
This audio was created with Podcastle.ai